Oh, happy Tuesday. It's book launch day for a friend of mine. I am excited to bring in Greg McCune to have a quick conversation about his book, Effortless, that comes out today. Let's see if we can find Mr. Greg McCune. I hope everybody's having a nice Tuesday. It's a little rainy here, to be honest, but you know what? We're making do. We're having a good time. Find a friend, shall we? Greg has a book. It's being birthed today, and I am here for it. It's called Effortless. You ever heard of it? Have you ever heard of Greg? Have you ever heard of Effortless? You ever heard of Essentialism, which was one of Greg's other books? Sold like 1 million copies. One of my favorite books in the last 12 months. And I'm about halfway through this current book, and it is fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic, and it's book launch day, so why not? All right, Greg's here. He says, I'm here. Well, Greg, it says I'm waiting for you. What does that mean? How do I get you in here? Go live with Greg. Let's see if we can bring him in here. Have a little conversation about his book. Have a little conversation about essentialism. Have a little conversation about effortless. Frankly, have a conversation about anything and everything that's going on. Greg, it says Greg's unable to join. Why would Greg do this? Hold on. All right, I'm going to try again. Go live with Greg. Happy to report. Broncos in the shop. Oh, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, it's good to be with you.
It's book launch day, man.
Launch? Are you kidding me? It's so good to be with you on book launch. You know what it means. You know what this day is.
Of all the days, I'm so glad you're able to hang out even just for a handful of minutes to catch up. My goodness gracious, man. How are you feeling?
I am feeling great. I wasn't sure I would. I didn't know how I would feel today, but I just feel so grateful. That is the feeling I have today. I feel so grateful.
If you were watching this is Greg. He's written a book. It's called Effortless. It's the follow-up to his very successful and one of the, honestly, most influential books of my last 12 months, Essentialism. This is now called Effortless. It comes out today. I'm a super fan of Greg, and I'm happy that we have become friends, separate from someone who I like to read the words of. For anyone who doesn't know about what you've written about before, why don't you give just a little history of what Essentialism was, and then how Essentialism is a bit of a two-hander with Effortless.
Essentialism is about figuring out what is most essential in your life, figuring out and eliminating the things that are non-essential from your life so that you can focus on the things that matter most. In one word, essentialism is about prioritization. And it's important because so many of us are stretched too thin at work or at home. We're busy, but not necessarily productive. And we feel like our life is being hijacked by other people's agenda for us. And that's essentialism. Effortless is in one word, is simplification. And I think it's relevant right now because I think there's like just two kinds of people in the world right now. There are people who are burned out, and then there are people who know they are burned out. And so this is really written for those people. It's people that are highly engaged, they're highly driven, but they just feel, on the edge of exhaustion or sometimes way past it. And so I just hope that it proves to be relevant to people because I think it's not enough to know what's essential. You've also got to try and make it as easy as possible to do what's essential. And that's so important because I know that after the last year, after all that's gone on, after all of the pandemic, and we're still living in it, with all the transitions coming up, with all the political divisiveness, with all of this civil unrest, all of these things, they're burdensome to people, and life becomes exhausting. And I know a lot of people have achieved great results in the last 12 months, but they've done it through grinding effort. And so now, going into this next 12 months, we've got to find a way to do the things that matter most, but not be so exhausting to us personally, to our most important relationships, and so on. So I think Effortless is an idea whose time has come.
Oh man, I'm here for it. You know what's essential for me right now?
What?
My 4-year-old is not potty trained through the night.
Yep.
And I've got some bags under my eyes as evidence of her 3 a.m. wake up and having wet her bed and needing a new place to sleep after having destroyed the one that she usually stays inside of. It
Yes.
is essential for me to find a way to potty train this child through the night. That's not the point of our conversation. Essentialism for me.
No, but it's for real, right? Like life is made up of things like this that you know, we can take a hard situation and we can make it worse, right? Like we can complain about it, we can think we have to do it on our own, we can think we don't have to tell anyone about it, we can think, you know, we can think we just have to figure it out on our own without asking people who've been there before us or reading books on it or doing a little research. Like we can take it doesn't matter how hard something is, we can make it worse, you know, by our response and make it harder for ourselves, and then we burn out. So I love a practical example like that, but it sounded like you were going to go on to something else.
Well, no, what I was going to say for like anyone who has not yet read Essentialism, and man, like plenty of people have, I recommend it to literally anyone and everyone in my next book. I have 4 pages of book that is dedicated to telling people how great this stinking book of yours is.
I love that.
The thing I think I liked the most about it, though, was, yes, identifying what's essential is important, but the freedom that comes in releasing yourself from the obligation of the things that are now not essential in your life is the difference between moving forward or being productive or having impact in a way that's meaningful for the things that are the needle movers in your life or not. And man, I think we just make the mistake sometimes of thinking that we have to be all things to all people, that we can do all things, whatever it might be. And I couldn't be more grateful for the way that book gave me some permission to let go of and be free from the non-essential things inside of my life.
Well, and that theme of letting go, which I do think is a key part of essentialism, right? Eliminating the non-essentials, just permission to eliminate non-essentials, to not think you have to do it all, be it all in order to have it all. You know, there's a different strategy. That theme of letting go, I sort of do a double click on that in the new book. Because there's other things we can let go. There's like non-essential stuff, like the activities in our life that no longer serve us or are useful. But there's other things too, like just holding a grudge, for example. That is going to make everything harder in our life. Any grudges we hold, any anger that we hold on to, it's just like putting massive boulders in our backpack and then going to the task of the day. Okay, you've identified the essential work of the day, but you're carrying this massive burden with you all the time, everywhere you go. And I just was interviewing Chris Williams on the What's Essential podcast. This is a guy whose family was half of his family, more than half of his family, were killed by a teenage drunk driver. And in the midst of that devastating situation, he realized he had 2 choices. He could make this already terrible situation worse, or he could, by holding a grudge, by saying I can't forgive this person, by just adding all those boulders onto his path forever, making it harder to heal, making it harder for his surviving children to recover, or he could let it go. And in letting it go, he didn't make it easy, but he did make his life easier than it otherwise would have been.
Yeah.
And so he did it remarkably. He made that choice. He was public about it, actually. He ended up being interviewed and did it because it was a local story, just that this accident had even happened, this awful thing. And he said, look, just don't hold a grudge for me or about what's happened. Go and forgive someone in your life. Tell me about what happened. And he got letters from all over the world with people that had done that. And so I think if now is a good excuse, not just to eliminate like trivia that's on our calendar, might be a good time to let go of grudges we've hired to do a job for us. They're not performing them very well. There's other stuff to let go of too. So I think there's other things to let go too.
So good. I remember hearing Chris's story in Catherine Schwarzenegger's book on forgiveness.
Yes,
and
that's
it was the same kind of thing. It's like, how many things are we unnecessarily carrying in our day that in holding them eliminate the possibility of holding something else that actually matters, that we like have deep meaning and care for? It just keeps us from actually being able to be who we'd hope to be for the people we love the most. And I love that.
Well, and one of the things that makes me think of, one of my personal discoveries was when I was going through a very personally painful experience with sickness of one of my children, was this little lesson, which is, if you focus on what you lack, then you lose what you have. And if you focus on what you have, you gain what you lack. And so choosing where you put your focus, Chris in that car with his family is wrecked, literally car wrecked. If he focuses on what he is now lacking, it will destroy and steal everything he still has.
Yeah.
If he focuses on what he has, he can build, he can renew, he can grow, and he has gone on to create great good that wouldn't have been possible if he'd been held back and been focusing on the things that he lacked and the things that he couldn't control. So I think that this idea of what you focus on grows is an important part of making life more doable, making the essentials easier.
Yeah. So good news for anyone and everyone listening. Greg and I have a full podcast episode's worth of conversation about all of this in this Thursday's episode of the Rise Together podcast. I'm excited for everyone to hear that. But for anyone who is joining late, it's book birthday today of a book called Effortless that Greg has written, the follow-up to his very successful Essentialism. I recommend that every human being get both of these books. But in Effortless, you talk about the effortless state. Can you just give people a little sense of what the effortless state looks like?
I will. I see someone in the chat asking for that quote again. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to share it again, if I can remember it right. It's that if you focus on what you lack, you lose what you have. And if you focus on what you have, you gain what you lack. And so now that how does that speak to now the effortless state? I mean, effortless state is really where you're at ease. You're in a state of flow. You get to be yourself. You're well rested. Everyone has experienced this, actually, in my experience, that everyone has this sometimes, but that they spend a lot of their life outside of it. So maybe they're just spending it sort of 5% of their life in this state, and the rest of the time they're worried, they're feeling frustrated, they're feeling angry, they're feeling exhausted, and so they spend a lot of time out of this optimal state, and so that affects not just the state that you live in. It's not just the quality of your experience of life, as important as that is. It also affects the actions you take. Exhausted state produces exhausted action. You're not being very discerning about what you're doing, and you start overcomplicating that as well. And that affects the results you get. So state, an effortless state helps you to have take effortless action. Effortless action helps you to get effortless results. That's sort of the ideal, the optimal. For a lot of people, they're in a state of suffering. It creates action that is they're overthinking their action. They're procrastinating what matters. They're being a perfectionist about things, so they're not getting them done. And this produces results that are just also exhausting results. They can get results only by grinding effort, because the whole system is sort of set up, stacked against them.
Believing in scarcity, living in scarcity, making decisions as a result of this scarcity kind of belief. And if the opposite ends up being true, living in abundance, feeling that sense of abundance, being in flow or focus, you make decisions that believe in that and ultimately help see it as you make those choices. I'm so here for it.
Yeah, I've really experienced that myself as well. One of the things I've learned is that you can't be in a state of thankfulness and a state of fear at the same time.
Right.
And I've spent too much of my life in a state of, I normally would say, I'm worried about something, but really a lot of the time worry is fear. And when you get into a state of fear, you're just not performing at your best. And so, yes, we all of us wish life was, well, I'll say it this way. A friend of mine put it this way. Benjamin Hardy had him on my podcast, on the What's Essential podcast. And he just said it this way. He said, you have to choose whether to live in the gain or in the gap. And if you are in the gap, you're looking at where your life isn't what you want it to be. And so that just produces suffering. it produces unhappiness. If you keep comparing it against someone else who has something more than you have, or if you compare it against something in the past that you wish it was like that, or you're just going to be miserable. It doesn't matter how successful you are, you'll be miserable along the way.
And if you go looking for the signs of that, you'll find evidence of it. And so, like, in some ways, you find what you're looking for. And if you can train yourself to be looking for the abundance, you can find and see it. And if you're looking for the lack, you'll find and see that too.
Yeah, that's exactly what I found as well. You know what we should do? Well, I know we've talked about this independently here, but I want to ask people here if they think it's a good idea. This is John Acuff. Do you all know John Acuff? Say you can give a reaction if you do.
Oh yeah, we know John.
John and you and I doing something live, doing like a tour. I don't know why I'm raising that.
We have to do it.
Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be fun?
This is a good idea.
We would just go. We'd have to figure out where to go. John suggested 10-city tour, which I think is just kind of a fun idea too.
Yes.
So people can tell us in the comments, what cities should we come to?
Let's do a 10-city tour with John. We'll call it an RV tour, but we'll definitely not go in an RV. And then we'll show up at places and we'll just have conversations, and maybe we'll talk about things that we've written about. And maybe we'll just make fun of each other. I'll wear a V-neck. He'll wear an oversized suit of mine. You can look handsome like you normally do, and just hang out.
Yeah, well, listen, I think it'd be such a fun thing to do. Let me ask you this question while I have you. What is something? Actually, I want to ask it for everyone else as well. What is something that is essential you wish was more effortless? Something that you wish was more effortless. I'm going to think about the same thing. And everyone else be thinking about that as well. What is something that is essential for you that you wish was more effortless?
I can tell you right now. Yeah. So I have in my older two boys, like my most essential thing is being a super connected, very involved, intentional without technology, connecting with eyes, not with, just sitting in the same room kind of relationship with my kids. And as my 14-year-old is becoming 15, as my 12-year-old is becoming 13, the work to create that intention is different than it is with my 9-year-old and my 4-year-old. And so I wish it was just easier to find things that we get connected to and have long conversations and stay present and feel connected in a world that feels like, as they continue to get older, is just harder because they have doors now. And they have friends now, and there's obviously the distraction of technology. So that's where my head goes first.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. That's interesting, and it reminds me of like a distinction that I came across in the research of the book, which is that there are things in life that are chores, there's habits, and then there's rituals, and these three different things. And when things are hard, like there are times when hanging out with teenagers can feel like a chore, right? It's a chore for them. I don't want to be with hang out with dad. I've got other things to do. There's a habit where you start getting a routine in place, and okay, well, every Monday night we're going to have hangout time together, or we're going to set aside time. You've got a habit, it's routine, but it's still like, I am doing this now because later I will be pleased. And then a ritual is something different again. A ritual is that it's like a habit with a soul. A ritual is something that you enjoy the thing itself, not just because it's a benefit later. And so I mean, in my head, I'm wondering, like, how can you make a ritual of something where you actually enjoy doing it in and of itself, not just because, hey, it's my priority to have this relationship.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is we've implemented every night. Noah goes to bed earlier than the three boys do. Every single night we sit in our den, watch a show together. And so we're watching a show, but watching a show is a passive, collective entertainment experience, not a connecting, conversational kind of experience. And the thing that I've been playing with is, what I actually think I probably need to do, because my boys are each wired so differently, is create a ritual around one-on-one time where I can indulge in something that they enjoy, that I also, by the way, enjoy, that allows us to connect in a way that they like, right? And so like playing chess with my oldest son has now become a thing of like, hey, how can I introduce chess more intentionally just with him, because I know he likes it, and while we're playing, have conversation. How can I, because I know my middle son loves sports, get up in the batting cage or catch him while he's pitching and introduce something of conversation. My youngest son, he's still at that, like at 9, he just wants to hang out. He's like free and fun to, kind of have any kind of conversation with, because his mind goes everywhere. And he doesn't yet have that weird teen self-awareness of, is it okay for me to still be this talkative, this close, this cuddly with dad and have it not feel odd? So one-on-one connection is my hack that I need to do more of, and that I'm trying to do more of, because I think I sold myself a bill of, hey, if we can just sit in the den and watch Lost every night, if we can sit in the den and watch Parks and Rec every night, then we're gonna, we'll have spent time together. And that is time, but it's not actually producing the result that I was most interested in, which was connection.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people can relate to what you're saying in a pandemic environment, that TV, whatever we were watching before, we watched a little more or a lot more once the pandemic hit. And I think there is still something of an achievement of getting whoever's in the family to watch something together rather than everyone's on separate devices. It does create, I think, a different feeling. But this, you're going for something different. And the question is, as you've given some good examples of how can you do it so that you can have the connection. It's not just watching TV, which is more distant. And you've given some good examples. I think figuring out something that you enjoy too. So one thing that's been at work, I got loads of fails in my life, tons of fails in my family.
Me too.
But last night wasn't my finest hour. Something that works for me with my son is like tennis. I love tennis, and he loves playing tennis. And so he will say to me, hey, listen, can we go play tennis? And it's easy to think, oh, well, that's, where we're going to find a couple of hours to go play properly. And we're just like, no, we just go, hey, we're going to go play for 15 minutes. And we will do that. And recently, over the last couple of weeks, we've done it most days. And it just gets me out of the office. It gets me out of my, this sort of endless Zoom, eat, repeat life that I think a lot of us, can fall into, and instead get out there and make a memory together. And so I think, chess for me, he loves chess too, but I find that a little overwhelming.
I can't beat him, which is part of what's beautiful, because I can put my best effort in, and my 14-year-old will say checkmate every time. It's a guarantee. But one of the things I think that is part of like the required ingredient is enough time to pass with us indulging in something that we both enjoy, so that, I don't know that it's a guard necessarily, but just like a degree of comfort is established that has something in conversation come up that doesn't feel forced. Because the best conversations happen after 15 minutes, where all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, you know what? This thing happened at school. This person said this thing, or I was watching this thing and it made me think of this. And that kind of a conversation usually doesn't present itself in the first 10 minutes of us hanging out, or we're on a quick drive to drop off. It's hard to kind of pry that stuff out unless there's a little bit more time where it can gestate and feel like it can bubble to the top.
Yeah, you know what? I have a specific thought for you of this, which is, and it's a stereotypical thing, but I think it's quite helpful, which is that with boys, you want to be side by side, not eyeball to eyeball. And so I'm specifically thinking about like a car drive, like no agenda, but hey, we're just going to go drive. And you find, you maybe think about a place that you like to go, something. With like family members, with my dad, with my brother, we've gone like on a long drive together. And the effect of it, without having really much intentionality around this, is that you talk and talk and talk, and it's just safe talking about general stuff, and then it gets deeper and deeper at the longer you drive. And so I think, that's like, you could do it in a big way, go and drive, take some, literally a day trip and just drive together. I think could produce a lot of what you're saying. But you could do a much smaller version of that, where you just go, hey, we're just going to go for a drive, and in the drive, you're going to have that safety that someone's going to start talking.
I think what I need to do, my neighbor, Brady, has a golf cart. What I need to do is steal his golf cart and then allow my 14-year-old son, who wants more than literally anything on this planet to drive a golf cart, to just drive these backcountry roads until he gets lost a little bit in the joy of driving. We're taking in the scenery. Next thing you know, we're talking about something deep, and I am connecting, and it feels good. I'm here for this. That's good.
Listen,
fishing. Yeah, someone said fishing. We've got a little pond down the road, and fishing has actually been one of those things, because fishing don't happen like fast. It's a take some time, be patient,
Mhm.
wait till they actually bite kind of experience. And there's been some good conversation that's actually come in like the 20th minute of a good fishing hang. So
I love this idea of the golf cart. When you described that, just coming back to that for a second, that felt like a ritual in the making there.
right.
That it's like not hard. You don't want a ritual to be hard in life. You want it to feel like, yeah, I could imagine doing that. I can do this.
And it's,
And
by the way, I think a golf cart is like, it's not grand theft auto, it's like mild theft auto. So it's like, misdemeanor at best.
yeah, well, exactly. And I could just see you. I could see you actually really getting into a habit about that. That's more than a habit, becomes this, like we're saying, a habit with a soul. Because that, your son's going to look forward to it, but you are too. Like, it's not hard on you, it's not heavy on you. You're just outside. He's driving it. It's a fun experience. Oh, you're making a memory. The experience itself becomes a bit easier.
Dave Matthews Band just lightly in the background, little scenery going on. Maybe watch out for a deer or two. Come on. All right, Greg. I could do this all day, but this is book launch day. What are you doing to celebrate book launch day?
Yeah, I actually not sure I'm doing a good enough job at like celebrating today.
You got to celebrate, man.
Some celebration. I haven't thought, what should I do? What's the ritual to celebrate the launch of Effortless?
The first thing I would do, here's the first thing I would do. I really encourage this. I would gather your humans around the table tonight. Effortless. It comes out today. It's this book's birthday. You got to buy this stinking book. Dang it. The first thing I would do is make sure that you are having a dinner tonight where your humans are sitting around the table, and then force each of them to take some sparkling water and raise a glass and acknowledge something that they admire about you and the work that you do, so that you can, from the people who mean the most to you, hear from them. Like, you got to start there. And then from there, you got to do whatever the heck you want, man. Be selfish. It's a big old day.
Yeah, I actually don't feel that I do a great job at celebrating wins, and I can teach about it. And we do when we eat together at night, which we do about 75% of the time. We will do little toasts to each other. But for this, I haven't really done any design around it, and it's so important to do it. So I'm going to take that as a good challenge and really like work out what we do to actually celebrate it. Because
all right, I have another idea.
Yeah, good.
Okay? I have your wife. So I would, in your stories, ask people to, in enough space that can fill a DM, say something about what your work has meant to them. And then you cannot go into your DMs, because someone will inevitably tell you that you are terrible and that you should stop writing books. But forget that person. If your wife then can pick a handful of solicitations from people who have legitimately been affected by your work, so that you can stay connected. Because sometimes I think it's hard. You create something, you work really hard to get to the launch, it took a long time to write, and you forget sometimes that human beings are actually reading the sweat and the blood and the tears and the strife and whatever else that it took to get this stinking thing out in your hands and out into the world. I think it'd be nice just to connect. I don't know, for me, like, I do like to be able to remind myself, like, oh man, in a world where I sometimes can be a little disconnected from why I'm doing this in the first place, like, stay connected to the why by hearing from a few people that you're doing good work, man. You're bringing light into this world. If you need me, call me. I'll tell you how great you are. Dang it, I love you.
Oh, dude, I love that, Dave. I love that positivity. Don't we all just need this? We all need encouragement, and celebrating wins. I mean, it sort of, that sparked something for me, a thought for me, which is that this is a surprising story. This is of a police chief in Canada who got serious about celebrating success. And so like, if you think about the last time, okay, Dave, when was the last time you were pulled over, like, by a cop?
It was about 2 months ago.
What was it? What were you pulled over? What? Okay, hold on. Don't tell me what it was for. Okay, you pulled over as the cop is walking, as the police officer is walking around to your side of the vehicle. What are you thinking?
I was thinking, I have just been caught going too fast in a school zone. I've got my license out, and I'm gonna go ahead and take a ticket and try and get through this as quickly as I possibly can. Thank you very much. Like I knew I'd done wrong. I was fine with it. I was beating myself up a little bit, but it was early. I was coming back from school and I was driving too fast.
I hate getting a ticket. I feel so grumpy when I get a ticket. But here's what you weren't thinking. There's no way you were thinking, is this going to be a positive ticket or a negative one? Like none of us thinks that. And the reason is obvious, because all tickets are going to be negative, right? You're only pulled over when you're doing something wrong. That's the only time you're going to get pulled over. And this police chief just questioned that assumption. He's like, why? Why does 100% of the interactions that my police officers and I have to be negative? Why does it always have to be after the fact? And he changed his whole orientation. And he said, my goal is not to catch people doing the wrong thing. It's to have no crime. I want zero crime. So if you want zero crime, you can't have 100% of your efforts being after the fact. And so he starts this, he starts positive tickets program, where he would catch people doing the right thing, especially youth. And we'd give them a positive ticket, and that might be like, okay, come to the police station and you'll get like a ticket for free pizza from this local wherever. And so they started doing this, and they would give out 3 times as many positive tickets as negative tickets in his city. They, over a 10-year period, reduced overall crime by 40%.
Yo.
Youth crime in half, 50% reduction in youth crime, and they took recidivism levels from about 67% down to 8%. So this is this massive improvement, because they were focused not on just after the fact, we caught you doing the wrong thing, but catching people doing the right thing. And for me, that's been a huge game changer in my own leadership efforts, in my own family efforts, is catching people doing the right thing. It's the easiest thing to walk into the room next door. Right now, finish this, I'm going to go in there. Someone will be doing something wrong. Someone will be distracted, right? That's not hard to find. But find it instead to orient myself to like, catch someone doing the right thing.
That's good.
And we started a little years ago, we did it, but we still do it now with the teenagers because they'll ask for it. We started a star chart. This is not your mother's star chart, right? This is different.
I've got it in the kitchen still because of what you wrote in Essentialism. But keep going.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that you have that. Oh, that's good stuff. So the basic idea here for those that are new to this, you just take a sheet of paper. You come up with everyone together. You say, what's the prize? What's something that we're going to do together, a ritual we're going to do, some memory we're going to make? Maybe it's going to see a movie. Maybe, in COVID, if you can't go see a movie, you say, okay, we're going to watch this movie together. You come up with something that everyone's looking forward to, all of you, parents, kids, everyone. You can adapt that to whatever age the children are. That's written at the top so everybody knows. Now, underneath, you just draw a grid. We just did it, the basic, simplest thing. Every time you find someone doing something right, they get to write up a star on the star chart. They start. You don't take any stars away. You're not allowed to take anything. So it's not like, well, you did something bad, we'll take a star from you.
We put initials because there was something in like the significance that got to come from someone getting to write their name on the star chart so that they could try and be good even more often.
I like that about the actual writing your initials, so you feel like you kind of get a little extra credit for that. For us, there was no separate list for each person's name. There wasn't in any way competitive that way. It's like if anyone gets a star, everyone benefited. So it's all upside. We tried to create an asymmetric scenario. So there's no downside to this game. There's only upside. Yeah. And basically, although it does improve behavior in your children, it really, the primary benefit is that it changes behavior in you as a parent, because you start looking for something that someone's doing right, and someone is always doing something right, however small it is. And as soon as you name it and you give them a star, everyone else goes, well, that's what you have to do to get attention around here. Well, I'll do that too. And it just drives this much more positive approach to parenting. And out of that, I mean, really, now we're back to state, action, and outcome, because as soon as that state improves, your actions improve and your results improve. And now our teenagers will come to us when we start to get a bit negative, and they'll be like, okay, it's time for a star chart. It's time to launch another one. And so you want it to become part of the culture. You don't want to always be in the, the policing, the after, the, someone's done something wrong and you're dealing with those problems. You want to be trying to get earlier on in the process as positive as possible.
I'm bringing this conversation full circle. So just before we come on here, I'm talking to Heidi. I'm having this conversation like, how do I convince Noah to not wet the bed? These lines under my eyes have got to go. I can't keep getting up at 3 a.m. And the idea of a star chart was the thing that we talked about. Like, could you create some kind of incentive that if she were to not go to sleep with milk, as a little tip to parents, apparently if you drink a ton of liquid before you go to bed, you wet the bed. And I have not learned this. I'm trying to learn, but I'm trying to figure out, like, how can I create a little star chart that would, over a certain number of days, reward her were she to not have milk, not wet her bed, whatever it might be, right? I'm looking for the good instead of trying to, like, shake her out of doing the wrong or doing the bad. So the star chart is now like morphing. There's 2, one in the kitchen, and now there'll be 1 in her bedroom, where she gets to put that star up there for every night that she goes to bed without drinking a stinking gallon of milk. Maybe Daddy going to sleep through the night one of these days. I don't know, but we're going to see.
Well, I like that too. And there's somebody here in the comments here, A. Brooks, who says that this works with younger kids, but can't see our teens liking it, but worth a try. And I just want to speak to this because now the culture has to be in place, because this any kind of game like this is just a gate to the relationship. It's only a way to be able to bring a certain culture into your home. And if the culture isn't there, no game is going to work. But I will say this, that our teenagers literally ask, I've got 4 kids that are aged 18 to 12, so basically all teenagers now, and they all like the game. Now, what changes, though, is getting a reward everyone is excited about. That's right. Just got to get something that everyone goes, that would be cool. We'd like to do that. Once we fill this star chart, I think the last one that we did was to go to Six Flags. And so this was something everyone wanted to do. Everyone was excited about it. Actually, everyone was excited. Everyone was more excited than I was, especially once we actually went, because he's sick pretty fast doing that. But it was something everyone was looking forward to doing. And so you've just got to get everyone together to select the actual outcome. And if they buy into that, then they'll buy into the process. They'll look forward to it, because it's just a way to get one more thing that they want. And so I think this is the way to get them on board.
So good. All right. Good news. Greg and I talked for an entire episode's worth of conversation about effortless and essentialism on Thursday's Rise Together podcast. And we barely talked about any of that in the last 40 minutes. So there's a whole bunch of fresh, great content. Greg, you're an awesome human being. I'm so glad that I could spend even this small amount of time on book launch day. For those of you that didn't hear, Effortless is out today. It's Greg's masterpiece, the follow-up to the masterpiece that preceded it, Essentialism. I encourage everyone to go ahead and grab it. Dude, I'm so excited for you. It's a big day. You deserve to have every single amount of congratulations, celebration that you can get. And if you need me to call you later and tell you that you're awesome, I'll do it, because I think you are.
I love it, Dave. Thank you for having me on. And I don't know if I should be saying it here, but should I be talking about your book too? Is this?
We're not talking about my book today. We're talking about your book today. We're talking about my book later.
Exciting stuff coming. There's exciting stuff coming.
Oh, there's exciting stuff coming, but who cares about that today? We're talking about yours. It's effortless. It's out today. Check it out. I'm excited for you, brother. And we're going to get ourselves on tour. So go ahead, buckle up, humans. It's John A. Cuff. It's Greg McCune. It's Dave Hollis. We're going to be coming on an RV tour. We will not be driving in RVs to a city near you. Look for it at some point in the future.
Take care. Thank you so much, Dave.
All right, brother. We'll see you later. Bye, y'all. Have a good Tuesday.